Hello, friends. Ned Kelly here. Let us talk about the 2022 Libertarian Party National Convention and the theme of that. We recently had the theme naming contest done through donations, and the winner is Liberty Unsmacked. Well, something close to that. Just kick a few letters around and you'll know what I'm talking about. Liberty Unsmacked. I am really pleased with that as the theme and the name. And I will talk about why I think it's important that that won. But first, let me go over the numbers. In first place, Liberty Unsmacked, $9,009 with 238 contributions made to it. In second place, Liberty Wins, which is fine. It's Reno casinos winning. That's nothing wrong with that. $8,608, 37 contributions. So the average donation was $38 for Liberty Unsmacked, and the average donation for the second place was $233 per person, which is huge. That's a big donation for a humble little party like ours. As my girlfriend Mary pointed out, they had some whales. They had some big donations. Most all the donations took place on the very last day of the contest. So to me, that means the theme that won really had a good grassroots support, right? A lot more donations, a lot more people involved and contributing in that, and smaller donations per donation. So I think that's great, and this is why I like it and love that idea, that theme, unsmacked. Of course, we're kind of talking about revealing, uncovering, bringing out the principles of liberty. It's a nice play on that, but we all know we're talking about the face coverings and getting rid of these silly things. I'm going to tie into this conversation both the smacks and the scavs, the scavamations, right? Your health choice about whether or not you want to get this health treatment. It would be nice if the Libertarian Party and libertarian people in general could remain agnostic, right? You get that treatment if you want to get it. You don't get it if you don't want to get it. Enough said. But it's really, really hard to remain agnostic. Like ice cream. The Libertarian Party doesn't take a stance on whether or not you should eat ice cream as long as there's no force or fraud involved. What's the Libertarian position on astrology? There does not need to be one. We can remain agnostic on that. You follow it, you get into it, you don't, your choice, as long as you don't try to force that upon someone else. Well, when we're talking about this specific medical treatment, the government is so in bed, so enmeshed with it, in the production of it, in the protection of there's a handful of large corporations, let's call them what they are. There's a handful of these pharma producers, and you can't sue them. So there's government protection of them right there. The propaganda, the endless propaganda being put forth by the government to promote their product. Imagine if they were doing that for ice cream, right? If the government was day after day after day telling you had to eat ice cream, and there's a handful of producers of that ice cream. Well, it'd be hard to remain agnostic and neutral about that, right? I think libertarians would stand up and say, "Hey, we need to stop this this endless messaging." And of course, now, which is a surprise to nobody, or should be a surprise to nobody, the mandates. They're literally using force and telling you they're going to use more force if you don't take this product. So to me, it's getting unlibertarian to remain agnostic. Kind of let's compare this to schools, to education. You can remain agnostic about education to an extent. You can say, if you want to send your kids to a school, a private school, a non-government school, you can, or you can home educate or unschool or whatever you want to call it. And there doesn't need to be a libertarian position on it. But because so much government money is used to spend on government schools, public schools as they're known, and so much force. It depends, it varies from state to state, but there's literally aggression against people who don't school their children the way the state decides they should be schooled. So it is a very libertarian thing to talk about schools, to point out the fraud, to point out the corruption, to point out the waste and ineffectiveness of government schools and how it can be done better through voluntary means. Similarly, when it comes to these medical choices, I think it is a very crucial libertarian task to point out the corruption, the fraud, the ineffectiveness of that particular medical treatment. So I have an appeal to my friends out there who have been remaining quote unquote agnostic or neutral. I want to challenge you to at least criticize the corporatism, the fraud, the funding, the waste that is going to this handful of pharma companies. Even if you agree with the scav, if you got the scav and you planning on getting boosters of it every 3 months or 6 months or whatever it takes, even if you are pro that, I implore you, please remain anti-government, anti-fraud, anti-corruption, anti-force, and pro-freedom. Thank you, my friends.